I want to get into like the later parts of your Fringe and specifically the laughter.
Yeah.
So we are doing a production for Hamilton Fringe this year, which opens next week, July 14th. That is called The Laughter. It's about Lou Costello and Lucille Ball. So let's talk a little bit about how you started writing that production and how we sort of started the research for it.
Yeah, this was a different way of coming about to a script, by all means. I had this spot in the Hamilton Fringe because of this play winning a prize there, but we couldn't do it there because it didn't feel right in the atmosphere. And so I had the spot. Brandon knows this a little bit, but I had another idea for a show I was going to do beforehand, but it fell apart because I couldn't get the actors together and everything. So one night I was like, I got the spot. I had a great time working with Kate and Brandon a year previous on this thing called The Cage, which we had such a great time. And I just asked them both. And I said, hey, if you had a chance to play any character in history, who would you want to play? And Brandon came off right at the top and said, Lou Costello. And I was like, okay, that's okay. This could be interesting. And he told me why. He told me this incredible story that happened in 1943 during the radio show and everything else. And then I looked over at Kate in her Zoom screen and went, okay, Kate, so who would you want to play? And I'm sitting there going, please, God, make it somewhere close. Like, if you say like Catherine the Great, I'll be like, oh, okay, we're screwed. This is not going to work out for one of you. But she says Lucille Ball. And I'm like, okay. And she shows me this picture. She showed the picture of what she looked like in Halloween, dressed up as Lucille Ball, and she looked amazing. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, okay, so now I've still got to connect these two characters together. How am I going to do this? Well, then the coincidence of a lifetime happens, and it was that Lucille Ball was on that radio show that Abbott Costello had 2 weeks after this event that happened. And it's like 2 weeks. That's, oh my God, that's how perfect is that moment, right? And I remember playing like radio clips that night, trying to play them through our Zoom lenses. Yeah. And then I said, okay, well, now I've got to write this thing. I've got to write this, and that makes it, it's tricky because you have these larger than life characters. And this happens anytime you write history, by the way. That's like really, people have a conceived notion of who these characters are. I've got to play about Mary Todd Lincoln that people won't even recognize who she was, because most people think it was this crazy lady who did stuff and had seances. And I'm like, okay, there's a reason why she did this stuff. Like, but this case, it was like these two really funny people, but at a moment in life where it wasn't that funny. Like it wasn't, there was a lot of hardships they were going through this point in time. And so I'm kind of the master of finding those like moments, right? Just where I love finding those like tiny little moments where things change. But we knew we had to write a piece that had some laughter in it and some funniness, because you can't write about Lou Costello and Lucille Ball and not have some laughs. But there's some very serious stuff that these two are going through in this moment in time. And it was just such a joy to write this story, to write it for both Brandon and Kate, to see two actors like just dig and every week, like every time we rehearsed, it was like they just got a little deeper and a little deeper and a little deeper. And the point, I remember at one point saying to Kate, I said, I felt bad. I felt like I wrote more for Lou than for Lucille Ball, and that she just kept pulling stuff out, pulling in more. And by the end of it, they're on equal footing. And I was like, oh, thank God, because that's a horrible feeling when you write a two-hander, and it's obviously one person's show more than the other person. Mm-hmm. Some people find that with Seat Next to King a little bit, like they feel like, oh, it's Bayard's story, but it's like, no, there's more to Walter than you have to give him some credit on this. He's on stage a lot more. So yeah, no, it was just a great experience writing it.
Yeah, and it was a fantastic experience working on it. Like, it really was a dream come true production for me specifically, just because I have been wanting to do Lou Costello and tell this story for 11 years. I've held on to this story and had no idea what to do with it until I finally spoke up to you and Kate. And like our teacher, Tom Todoroff, always says, it's say yes to what you want and say no to what you don't want. And this was something I've always wanted to do. So thank you so much, Stephen, for giving me that opportunity to figure out how to find Lou Costello's voice, figure out how I was going to be able to tell this story And it really was a dream come true for me. So I thank you so much.
Yeah.
It really was such a pleasure.
And you know, the fact that you said how you felt open enough to say that, you know, there's so many times in our lives where we don't feel open to say our opinions or our feelings on things.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, I've always thought, you know, like when I'm directing or when I'm acting or when I'm writing, I say, you know, I'll tell actors, tell me if there's something that you think that needs to happen here, because that could be something that saves a show. Doesn't mean I'm always going to use it, but it might be something that connects something that we don't have. And to have actors as wanting to do a project as you are is the greatest thing. It's, you know, it's, you know, everyone has something at stake at doing something, and that makes the biggest difference. That means you usually come up with the best project from that.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And just for clarity's sake for the audience, normally you'd be staging this on a stage, but this year they're still doing digital or virtual.
Yes.
So you guys shot it Zoom style and then recorded it, did you?
Yeah. So it was intriguing because, again, you know, Zoom plays are a little tricky sometimes. But we did with this one, we really tried to give the feeling that they were in the same room at the same time. And that was a key to doing this play the way we did it. And how I wrote it and how I set it up to make it work that way. Yeah, it's part of what's called the digital exclusives of the Fringe. They really want to do live, but you know, we weren't there yet. And definitely a few months ago, we were definitely not thinking it was gonna be a live show. But yeah, it's to create that feeling of you're in the room with these characters. It's looking into the dressing room mirror of these two characters and what they're going through and what they're not telling and what they are telling, what they're not telling. That was kind of key to getting this project done.
Yeah.
Amazing.
We actually do have the first 2 minutes of the laughter. Ooh. If you guys want to see that?
Teaser, yeah. Little Lucille Ball, Lou Costello teaser here. Let's roll the clip.
Rolling the clip.
"30 minutes.
Who's there?
I don't know.
What?
What's on second?
Ah, for Christ's sake, I invented that sketch. It's the last thing I want to hear. Get in here. Oh, hey there. I didn't think anybody was back from the restaurant.
Well, I wasn't very hungry. I didn't go.
Oh, you gotta eat. I'm a living testament to that.
It's different for ladies, Lou. I've got a whole bunch of guys in Hollywood who would love for me to lose weight, whether I was, well, your size or a toothpick. They try to force those pills, but I tell them where to shove them.
Yeah, well, this isn't quite Hollywood. It's a stuffy sound boot in New York City.
Well, at least it's something, Lou. Besides, Hollywood's not exactly calling.
Well, you can grab something off the catering table and after the show. So, what brings you by? Come, have a seat.
Well, thanks there, Lou. What are you doing with all the makeup?
Ah, you gotta be ready when somebody wants a picture. Some publicity guy comes running in.
It's been a while since that's happened for me.
Liar, they always want a gal done up. Well, do it for me. A guy shouldn't have more makeup than a lady.
It's New York. I could send you to a few places where it's quite the opposite.
That is the truth. Just, humor me?
Well, just for you then. That's the great part of radio. No one can see the mistakes.
Yeah, it depends on which mistakes those are. Nah, I always like to get it done up right. Makes me feel like I'm doing it live for people in theaters.
I can understand that.
I figured you would. I miss all the live stuff.
There you go. That is the first 2 minutes of the laughter.